Hi, I'm Yinka, and this is The Hurt Locker, a podcast where we open a door into men's mental health. Come and go.
I made my debut for Bristol City's first team at 16 and 244 days.
There we go, buckle in.
So I joined in with them, and that made me have a sort of sense of belonging. It made me, feel
one of the lads.
Yeah, one of the lads, exactly. That little click.
Just a bug that just got you and gripped you all the time.
You get bigger losses, you get bigger layouts, so
the ante goes up.
Completely consumed me.
Talk to me about that.
Hello listeners, and welcome back to the Hurt Locker podcast. My name is Tim. Do not worry though, Yinka, our host, will be with us very shortly. And in case you were wondering, I'm introducing our guest today for two reasons. So number one, he has cult status with Stoke City Football Club, and I've promised a few passionate Potters the opportunity to pay homage, try saying that after a few, to a famous goal that he scored at Anfield back in the early 90s. And number two, of course, our host Yinka is a proud Liverpudlian and red, so it wouldn't be fair for him to share the vivid memories and poetic words of a one Mark Sutcliffe, who is father of Ant and Ben, and as I say, the whole family are massive Stoke City fans. We were in the third tier and the Macari bandwagon was rolling and we were winning a lot. We drew Liverpool away, and back then there were two-legged second rounds of the Rumbelows Cup, the League Cup as we know it today. Full of blind hope, we travelled to Liverpool for the night game, with 6,000 to 7,000 Stoke fans in the Anfield Road end. My memories are we played great and had a right go. We went 1-0 down to Ian Rush, and then Cranston equalised, which sent us crazy. Duly though, as expected, we went behind from Rush again, and we were praying for anything that would give us something to play for in the second leg. Anyway, enter Tony Kelly, number 14. This man is forever in Stoke folklore history for fans of my age. He's put in brackets 60s. With less than 5 minutes to go, he collected the ball and headed straight for our end, where we were packed in with the advancing Grobbelaar. No, never, surely not. He nutmegged Bruce and it flew or rolled into the net behind the stricken goalie. There was absolute pandemonium in the away end, and with one of the biggest mentals I've experienced in over 50 years supporting the Potters. Truly memorable, and in my top 10 games since 1969. Therefore, Tony Kelly, you'll be forever remembered in our hearts. God bless you, and thanks for that tremendous memory of that autumn night that meant so much to us. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mark. Yinka, it's over to you as we enter the Hurt Locker of our guest, Tony Kelly.
Thanks, Tim. Tony, welcome.
Welcome, Yinka. Good to see you, mate.
Good to see you too. We've never actually met in person, and I generally don't like to do any research beforehand, I like to just go in cold and just see where it takes us and all that.
Yeah.
But there was one or two things, I'm not going to say anything now, but there was one or two things that was like, okay. And I'm sure we'll touch upon those things amongst other things in this podcast edition of the Hurt Locker. But welcome. How are you feeling?
I'm actually tired today. We've had a manic day. Lots of stuff going on within this, within this space and the work that I'm doing. So we're basically in the middle of delivering workshops to non-league clubs today, and then developing courses. So there's a lot going on, basically.
Brilliant. And that's you through your organisation?
Yeah, that's through Red Car Gambling Sport Project, yeah.
Okay. When was that established?
So that was incorporated in 2015. Basically, it was on the back of the first publication of the first book, which is Red Card 2014. So we've been going about 8 years now. And we are all about education, awareness, and prevention of gambling-related harms. That's our model. That's what we do.
Okay, and we're going to touch on that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's start back right at the beginning. As a nipper, who is Tony Kelly? Where was he born and raised? What were his dreams growing up as a kid? We're not doing Eamon Andrews, This Is Your Life. I haven't got a red book here, but you know the dance.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Coventry, and my parents are from St. Vincent. Luckily enough for me, I'll be back there in 2 weeks' time, so I can't wait.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Yeah, I can't wait, mate. So yeah, we're from St. Vincent. Got 5 brothers and a sister, and I've actually got a twin brother as well, identical twin brother. And we are, we're very, very close. So growing up in Coventry, and when we talk about 70s and 80s, you know, I can resonate with, you know, I don't know, this is just a personal thing, but when we're talking about people of colour back in the 70s and 80s, it was tough. So it was tough growing up in Coventry. But all I wanted to do as a young 8-9-year-old, I fell in love with Brazil. I fell in love with that Brazil kit and the Reveille, you know, and the Jazi, you know, that's what I fell in love with. And that's what really made me passionate about, you know what, I want to be a professional footballer. So I sort of worked towards that, going to secondary school, getting into the school team and that. And then fortunately for us, or for me and my twin, my older brother, Errington Kelly, he was the first one to turn professional when he signed for Bristol Rovers. So he opened the door for us. He's 6-7 years older than us, opened the door for us. And he was instrumental in getting me and my twin down to Bristol City as 16-year-olds for our scholarship. So he opened the door for us. And we got into Bristol City to leave school at 16 and go and start on our football journey at 16 years old as apprentice at Bristol City with Terry Cooper. So that's when the football journey started.
Brilliant. And just going back a little bit, when did you know you wanted to become a professional footballer?
I'd say probably a secondary school time, you know, obviously falling in love with Brazil at 8 and 9 and all that and loving the game, but getting into secondary school into the first team of under 13s, playing local football under 13s. And then around that time, I sort of, you know, me and my twin sort of realised we had something. Very difficult to get picked up and scouted them days. So it was a question of, as I said, my brother did help us. But at that point, and then going to watch Coventry City at Highfield Road quite a few times, that sort of, you know, the ambience, the atmosphere, everything about being at a professional football match. Just silly little things like just the way a professional footballer might control a ball or strike a ball. Just little things that you think, wow, you know, I want to be on that pitch. And the pitch looks huge as a 12-year-old. And obviously the crowd, the atmosphere. So all those things come into play. And I think, and that was part of my thinking, and wow, I want to be on this stage at one point in my life.
Thank you for sharing that. In terms of support from your family, particularly your parents, etc., I'm wondering, were they full of encouragement for you? And the reason why I'm asking that question, because I know a lot of parents from the diaspora, they'd always say, get yourself a proper job and all stuff like that. You know, there was the thing that you may be passionate about, the thing that you may excel in, that you enjoyed. They would often, my experience, were dissuaded from pursuing that line.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I've met a couple of friends that were at my age, playing in that era, Coventry schoolboys in the 14s and the 15s and the 16s, really, really good players, same level as me and my brother. And they had experienced exactly what you just said. Their parents wanted them to get education was the key. You know, they'll get a proper job, whether it's uni, college. So one or two didn't go into the professional football world, even though they had the talent and were good enough, but they were held back by their parents. And the strange thing is that on the opposite side of that, our mum and dad just support us on everything. Our dad, God bless him, he drove us all over the place, training everywhere, trials, everything. He did absolutely anything and everything to help us progress in our career. We didn't want for anything, football boots, kit, everything. So, you know, for us, the support we had from our parents was amazing. But yeah, they didn't, you know, obviously put education important. So we went past all our exams and all the rest of it. So we're doing quite well at school, but they didn't stop us or put any barriers up to stop us going training or to drive us here, to drive us there. They did everything to support us, in terms of, you know, trying to be a professional footballer. So we were, I suppose, we were fairly lucky in that sense.
Absolutely great. I mean, that being driven around everywhere is only something that in more recent times I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
I'm only familiar with that in the last 10, 15 years, but you're going back.
And it's not easy, because I've spoken to
Not easy.
Yeah, when your parents have got it costs money driving all over the place and all that, time, etc. So it's not easy, but yeah, we're very proud of our parents. I'm very pleased that they're able to support us in the way that they did. Obviously, my dad's no longer here, but mum's in St. Vincent. So, yeah, they've always been supportive.
Okay, so you're 16.
Mm.
You've got your first contract, as it were.
Yeah.
How do you maintain a level head?
Well, Yinka, that's the problem.
It's something, Steve.
Yeah, you have hit something on the nail. Yeah. So basically, when I signed for Bristol City, me and my twin brother, we were what they call YTS on the YTS team 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And I excelled very, very, very quickly. So and when I say I mean myself, because my twin, for whatever reason, couldn't quite get to my level. So I made my debut for Bristol City's first team at 16 and 244 days. Now, this was a huge achievement.
Massive.
So, yeah, and that stood, I think, for 20 years. I think there's a guy called Marvin Brown or something, but that took it 20 years ago. So it lasted for a long time. And so I played in the first team. I made 8 appearances as a 16, 17-year-old for Bristol City. So everyone within the apprentice group, 10, 12 of us, were automatically thinking, well, see it turn a guaranteed football contract. When he gets to 18, he's going to be, he's going to be at Bristol City for years to come. But there lies the problem. So I didn't quite handle the adulation and the stuff that comes with, being in the first team, telling all my mates back in Coventry, then picking up the paper because I scored against Hereford, I think it was, in the first team. All my friends back home who are 16 and 17, God, we fucking scored and all that. He's in the first team and all this. So it was something that it did go to my head. I didn't quite know how to handle it. So what happened then, I started to go out with the senior pros. Now, we were living in digs close to the ground, and obviously part of living with digs with a lovely couple, was part of that was obviously our behaviour. There was 4 of us living there, and but I just got carried away with the whole, glamour of the football side of things and the women and all that. So I was coming home at 2, 3 in the morning, going to nightclubs with senior players like, Tom Ritchie, Ricky Chandler, all these people. And so obviously the report back to Terry Cooper is not favourable. Yes, he's got talent, yes, but he's going nightclub with all the senior players. He's coming at 3 in the morning, blah, blah. So I was one of those young people that, hit the ground running quickly, but already thought that I'd made it, and I was a long way from making it. So, yeah, unfortunately for me, my brother was released after a year, me after, not so long afterwards. So I didn't even get a professional contract. And I remember Clive Middlemass, who was Terry Cooper's sidekick, basically, assistant manager. I remember him saying to me that, Tony, you've got all the talent in the world, because you will become a professional footballer, but not until you've sorted your head out. And I remember that. And obviously 4 or 5 years later, I did.
How did you take that little bit of advice?
Yeah, I think I did. Once I got back to Coventry, the rejection was hard to take initially, because you've got to go back to your friends and family back in Coventry, and people are wondering what's happened. And I think about young players today that get released and go in the wrong pathway now, when that happens a lot. So when I think back, I think to myself, well, I must have had a desire and passion to be a footballer, because when I came back, I went straight to Stratford Town in the Midlands, started playing non-league football. Didn't give up. I was determined to be a footballer. Horrible Tuesday, Thursday nights training in the rain and freezing cold and all that stuff you got to sacrifice. But I just kept saying to myself, one day it's going to happen. So I committed myself to the non-league circuit, moved to London at 18. So when I come back after being released, there wasn't a lot work in Coventry, not a lot going on. A sister moved to London. She said to us, why don't you two move to London? There's nothing going on in Coventry. There's no job, etc. And just start new life afresh. You can live in a flat in East Dulwich. So, yeah, I moved to London at 18, and I signed the first non-league football club that I signed for when I got to London at 18 was Dulwich Hamlet. And they had senior players like Alan Pardew and Andy Gray, who come from the Palace and all that. So they had a big connection with Crystal Palace. And seeing them and know, I was just saying to myself, well, I'm at a really good non-league football side. I'm just going to get my head down. And hopefully one day, someone will scout me and pick me up. So I did have I think, what Clive Minogue said to me, if you sort your head out and get your head down, the talent's there. It's just basically the attitude. And I started to grasp that over the next couple of years.
Okay, so there was that belief in yourself that you would there eventually, even if it was a little bit delayed.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with me. So just moving on then. You're in London, the bright lights.
Mm.
How do you ensure your head's not turned?
I mean, in terms of heads not turned, in terms of the football or anything
distractions
else.
Or the distractions that come with being looked at.
And I think it's funny because when I look at London today, London's a different London to when it was 30 years ago. You're exactly right about the bright lights. Yeah, we obviously have started going into the club scene and that. But even and obviously I had cousins there as well. My twin was with me, my sister was with me. So we had a decent family unit within London, and obviously I had my brothers back in Coventry, and they would come down a lot. And I just think that although the partying was great, there were great clubs and all that. Everything was. Got myself a job at Eastern Electricity, so everything seemed to pan out nicely. And I wasn't one of those people that were like, clubbing it like 3 or 4 times a week, nothing like that. But I enjoyed the nightlife, but I still, in my mind, I still had that burning desire to be a footballer. So I'd never miss training on a Tuesday, Thursday night. Committed myself to that, and I think that's one of the things that, when you come from a professional environment into a non-league environment, some young people think, no, this is not for me. But yeah, I stuck with it. So yeah, the distractions in terms of women, the fast life, and all that. Yeah, I think I managed that quite well. I didn't let anything run away with me. The only thing that did start was obviously the gambling.
Okay, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But one of the things I was going to mention was we're going back 30 odd years, and I'm wondering about how was race?
Yeah,
being a professional footballer.
Yeah, I had it. I had it throughout. I'd say at different times in the non-league scene, and obviously a little bit in professional football. But I think over the years, it seemed to have got better. So when I think back to the Silver Region, the Laurie Cunninghams, and all that time, yes, I can see how back then it really was bad. When you get into the 90s and the 2000s, obviously there's a lot more awareness about it. But the things that would never change throughout my 9 years as a pro would be the banter side of things. So you would still have, comments from coaches or managers, all that, you should be used to the weather, that kind of thing, just little silly comments. But to them, as you know, to them, it's banter. So those little things still continued. Those things were still in my career when I was playing, but not so much blatant and not so much from the supporters.
How did you respond to that quote unquote banter?
Well, I was a little bit one of those guys that stood up for myself. And if because they always say that, to be in a dressing room in professional football, you've got to be mentally strong, because there's things that happen. People get the piss ripped out on left, right, and centre. You know what I mean? So and in terms of banter, I didn't let anyone get away with anything if it came to me, thinking that that's an insult to my race. And I think I was playing with certain players as well, particularly at Stoke, where we had Noel Blake, who was a monster basically. Yes. So there wouldn't be any words I didn't dress room. Yeah, for sure, mate. So, so the strong characters around that helps and all that. And I think, depending on what club you're at and the players you're around, because obviously the players that you're around, how you get on with all that lot. So it wasn't too bad, but I would step in and say something to someone, or I've had 1 or 2 little rows or rocks with 1 or 2. So just making sure that they don't cross that line, because I think 20 years earlier people would cross the line and people wouldn't say anything, because I remember listening to some of the older guys like Batsons and the Cunninghams and the Regis and all these people, where in my head when I watch some of these documentaries I think to myself, well, why didn't you say anything? Why do you accept what they're saying? But Yeah, I can't put myself in those shoes in the 70s. You know, why certain players accepted certain things as banter, because you know it was not going to happen today.
Do you think when you did step up, when you did check people, that they got it, that they understood, or was it just a fear thing?
Yeah, I think they didn't quite get it. I don't think, in terms of colour and race, in terms of racism, all that, you know, people don't really get it. I think you have to be in our shoes to actually understand what it feels like and why we feel it's you know, abusive to us.
Absolutely.
So I think they find it difficult. I know people talk about education and all that, but I've always said that a lot of racism comes from people's backgrounds and people's parents and the way they're raised, etc. So, you know, unfortunately, there always will be racist people. That's never going to change in our lifetime. So, I just think that, yeah, the more that people talk about, the more that awareness is raising. But you know, I don't think we'll ever get to a position where we can eradicate racism. That's never going to happen.
Okay, thank you. It's nice to have your insights on that. You know, I still feel as if we've still got some way to go. I listen to some of the radio programs, and there's that little subtleties, particularly on the likes of Talk Sport and all of that, and you think to yourself, you know, read between the lines, what's going on here, you know, and it is really subtle.
Subtle, yeah, that's a good word. Yeah,
but
it's there. Yeah, and it is sad. It is sad that we are, you know, getting issues around racism on the pitch, players, etc. Yeah, so all we can do is hope that, you know, when we leave this earth, that things do change for the good.
For the good, God willing.
Yeah.
God willing. And I'm not a religious person. Okay, moving on then. So, I'm going to get to the crux here.
Yeah, here we go.
Here we go. Buckle in. Tell me about gambling. Tell me from you, when did you start?
So one of the questions that's asked about, you know, people lived the experience of gambling harms is that, you know, why did you start gambling? So as I said, when I moved to 18, I signed for Dulwich Hamlet. Now, as you said, London was the big lights, big city, massive, completely, you know, different environment to living in Coventry, the Midlands. So when I moved to London, I was very, very shy, very quiet, signed for Dulwich Hamlet. And one of the reasons why I started to get involved gambling, we had a bookmakers called Mecca Bookmakers across the road.
And a
lot of players within these non-league circuit and professional football, because gambling's been on decades. You'll always get a clique of players that will like have a little bet in the bookmakers. So my way of fitting in with that little group of 5 or 6 players was to, you know, 1:30 on a Saturday afternoon is get to the ground. They'll be across the road, go into the bookers, put a few little football coupons on. So I joined in with them, and that made me have a sort of sense of belonging. It made me, you know, feel comfortable.
One of the lads.
Yeah, one of the lads, exactly. That little clique. And so that was my way of trying to fit in, basically. And people talk about, you know, peer pressure and all that kind of stuff, different reasons why people get involved in gambling. But back then, you know, obviously there was no online gambling. So you go to the bookies. So yeah, I joined in with those guys, started off in it very, very small, £5 accumulator. I remember 5 aways. And that was the introduction to gambling. That's how it all first started in terms of football coupon gambling. That's how it all started.
How old were you?
18.
18.
Yeah.
And then, was this on a weekly basis then, or?
Yeah, every week. You know, I remember you used to get the Sunday mail on Sunday and check the results. And it's I don't know, it just gave you some kind of burst. Sometimes when you win, obviously you have this sort of delusional thinking that this is quite easy. You know, if you pick for your 4 aways or your 4 homes, it did give you a real buzz, that adrenaline rush, without a doubt. And so, yeah, I was looking forward to every Saturday. I was looking forward to, you know, I suppose you could say that I was, which sounds crazy, that I'm looking forward to the Saturdays to have my bets as opposed to the actual game.
When did that start then, looking forward to the gambling?
I'd probably say on a Thursday, because obviously we used to train on a Tuesday and Thursday night.
How soon did you realise it was starting to escalate, or at the beginning were you kind of nonchalant to it? It's just, I'll earn that money next week, so it doesn't really matter if I lose.
Yeah, it didn't really concern me. Didn't really think about. No one talked about gambling addiction them days anyway, so it didn't really concern me. Didn't bother if I lost. I'll be thinking I'll win next week. I had obviously my wages from Eastern Electricity, and then we had small wages from Dulwich Hamlet. So yeah, it didn't even think to me about how it's going to escalate, or if it's escalating, or if I'm spending more or chasing. Those kind of things didn't really enter my mind. Didn't really think about it. It's only when, after I'd say, so I was there for Dulwich for a year, and then I moved up to North London to sign for Enfield Town and St Albans. So I'd say within year to 2 years, when I'm starting to then, create a little bit of debt, maybe take out a loan. And so little things where I've lost X amount of money, so I'm going to have to take out a loan or something along those lines. Then I start to realise, okay, I didn't say to myself, I've got a bit of a problem, but, that's obviously when you start, borrowing money to gamble, then you've got a bit of a problem. So, yeah, I started to slowly accumulate a little bit of debt.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't gamble, so I'm naive to this.
Yeah.
But taking out a loan to pay off a debt because you were gambling and all that seems
Exactly.
a bit like, wow, an oxymoron, as it were,
Yeah, and that's the thing, when we get to how much I borrowed in terms of the bank later on, you'll get a better idea. But you do trying to get money any way you can, any source, whatever source you can get money to, as the gambling problem develops, because what happens, you get bigger losses, you get bigger layouts. So because you're chasing, you've lost X amount of money, your bets will be bigger to try and recoup those losses. But what you're doing, you're digging yourself a deeper hole, and then eventually those debts increase and increase and increase. So, those 3 years in non-league from 18 to 21 with Dulwich, Enfield and St Albans City, it also involved gambling on the coach. So as another way to earn money, gambling in the bookies, we'd have players on the coach where we'd have our card scores, which was 3 card back.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes.
So they've always been around. They've always been around, card scores, 3 card brag. People did lose a lot of money when I went into professional football. It was a hell of a lot of money. But yeah, people lost a lot of money in the non-league circuit. So yeah, you come off the coach. But when you think about it, you come off the coach, having lost, I don't know, 100, 200 quid, which is a lot of money back then. It's just mentally, you're not right. You're feeling a bit depressed because you just lost 100, 200 quid, or you can't pay for the rent or whatever next week. So there's lots of things going on in your head there where you're not really focusing on your football due to your, heavy involvement with gambling. So yeah, 3 years, I'd say. And then when I turned pro at 21, things took another level.
Okay. But I'm just thinking about the card school, and you've heard instances of a England football team back in the day, losing big money amongst themselves. And I'm just wondering, how does that affect team morale or the esprit de corps within a team, cohesion, in terms of cohesion, if one of the lads have lost a bit of money in there?
Yeah. I mean, and I don't remember, anybody being overly concerned about someone losing X amount of money. It was like gambling was just normalized. You get involved and you get involved. If you lose money, you lose money. So much so that, this is not just non-league football back then, but also when I went to Stoke and for all the 6 clubs I played for, it was so normalised that I remember the managers and the coaches and the directors used to come down to the back of the coach and join in. So that's how normal it was.
Wow.
Which is incredible. Imagine that today. Yeah. 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 He used to come and join in. Yeah. So they had no sense of responsibility. They had no duty to care for players or anything like that. They just joined it. That's how it was. That's just how it was then.
And then when you signed for the professional clubs, you said that it escalated then?
Yeah.
Bigger contracts, etc. Because
I remember, yeah.
In my mind, I'm thinking, even before you signed those professional contracts, you've got the debts here, you owe people money, etc. Isn't it a thing whereby what went through my mind was, don't you worry about people looking to collect? Or you having to duck and dive and all of that?
That's the word, yeah. It's more that, ducking and diving, yeah, because I did fall out with one or two really good friends, actually. I fell out with one or two people where promised them the money next month and then the next week or whatever, and it never happens. So eventually that phone will stop ringing. I fell out with a few people. So yeah, I had to duck and dive a little bit. And especially, I remember one of the things was that, which when I think about it, is absolutely crazy. And this happened in non-league during that 18 to 21 years and in professional football. And that was hiding from, so I used to fall behind with my car payments, get the letters about, the repossession of a car. So then what I used to do, I used to come home and drive and park the car like about 3 or 4 or 5 streets away. When I think about that now, I think, wow, that's the crazy. I used to, and I say to my brother, yeah, so they won't find it. It's like five streets away and all that. And yeah, but they have their ways and all that. And eventually they would find the car. Yeah. It's a night. It is a nightmare once you start getting down that slippery slope and you start having creditors and fucking bailiffs chase you. It is, and it does mess with your head. It really, really does.
Okay, so I'm just thinking, professional contract. You're playing for all the professional teams. The ante goes up. Does that? I mean, did you ever get to a point whereby you thought, yeah, I've paid off everybody I owe. End of. I'm not going to do this anymore. Or was it just a bug that just got you and gripped you all the time?
Yeah, completely gripped me, completely consumed me. I signed for Stoke in 1990. So I'd accumulate, a little bit of debt in those 3 or 4 years previously. I had a £15,000 signing on fee, which was a lot of money for me back then in 1990. And in my mind was saying, okay, I'll clear a little bit of these debts. Yeah. But because I've got the bug and because it's now ingrained in me, this gambling, that I've got more ammunition now, now I can, have some bigger bets, etc. So it's gripped me. So instead of having that mindset that, like you just said, clear that 3 or 4 debts, put the 10 grand in a savings account and start afresh and stay clear of gambling. It's just not that easy. Once it's consumed and it grips you, it's a very, very difficult addiction to just wake up in the morning and stop. It's very, very difficult. And that's what I say to people today. If there was more professional help around back then, maybe I would have got sorted in terms of getting serious professional help. But there wasn't a lot around then. There wasn't a lot of awareness about it. It wasn't talked about a gambling addiction or a mental health disorder or a gambling disorder. So yeah, it was just something that I couldn't control. And then obviously once I signed for Stoke, like I said, with the more money, your mindset is, well, if I lose this, it's okay. I get paid next week. We used to get paid weekly. Yeah, and I've got enough money to pay this. That's the kind of mindset I was in. But the biggest thing for me once I turned professional, which I never did before I turned professional, obviously I was introduced to it by players, was the casinos. That was the biggest thing that really got me hooked and gripped on a bigger scale, on a large scale in terms of losing large sums of money.
And when we say large sums, what are we talking?
So I could easily, because obviously, I think £700 or £800 a week, we have win bonuses and stuff. So I'd lose it on the night easily, whatever sign non-fees I've had, whatever loans I might have took out, 10 grand here, 10 grand there, I could lose the 3 or 4 grand in the night easily at the casino, which I've done. So yeah, we're talking big money, and hence why my debt grew to 200 grand when I had the bankruptcy. So you can imagine the kinds of money I was spending, and obviously, you know, the borrowing that I was doing at the same time. So yeah, it just got me completely, like it has thousands of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's very, very. I always say it's one of the most evil addictions, because it's, you know, once it consumes and grips you, it's very, very difficult to stop.
Even at that time, did you see that would you acknowledge that you had a problem?
Yeah, and it's a strange situation to be in, knowing that, you know, because obviously other people see it. So my family members.
Who saw it?
Yeah, my family members, my mum and dad, because I'll ring up my mum, I'll ring up my dad and say, can you send me some money and all that? My mum would say, oh, you want to be careful with that gambling? He goes, yeah, no, it's not about my missus, for sure, obviously, you know, knew that I was gambling a lot and used to warn me all the time. So I had people, friends and family that knew that I was spending too much money gambling. They never knew really the extent of what I was getting into. So certain things I wouldn't tell them about, how many loans I've got or what debts I've got, you know, because there is a real serious shame and stigma attached.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, and it's
shame is massive.
Yeah, massive. So I couldn't tell people what I was going through and what I'd lost and what I owe, etc. So I just tell them bits. But I'd always ring up a friend or a brother or my sister. My sisters, the whole family to this day have been very supportive, but they went through the journey with me. You know, we talk about affected others. They were impacted by my gambling. Yeah, so it was very difficult to tell people really what's going on. But yeah, I borrowed off every single member of my family to feed that habit.
When you look back and mentioning family members and all that, and them all being affected, what comes up for you?
I tell you what comes up for me really is my sister, because she's part of one of our videos we do in a workshop today, an educational video, because she was asked to come onto a podcast. And she talks about how it impacted on her family. And there was one time where I asked her for some money to save my mortgage and save the house, because I've been to court about 2 or 3 times for eviction. And she gave me the money, you know, and said, you know, you got to stop this gambling, you know, I'll help you out this time. And she explains in this 3 or 4 minute video, she explains how she gave me the money, helped me out to save the house, but then I still go away, gamble the money and lose, and the house gets repossessed. So that sort of sticks in my mind in terms of, you know, she was willing to do anything for me, you know, to support me, but I was a gambling addict and I didn't really know it. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's lots and lots of incidences like that. Another thing that stands out is coming home. I picked up a 9-year-old daughter from school, and it was midweek, and we're walking past William Hill, and it's midweek football. That's all I've got in my head. Midweek football, loads of games. I've got out of bed, and I said, Savannah, I'm just gonna pop in for 2 minutes. Just wait there 2 minutes. Now I don't know. She's 25 now. We talk about it. I don't know how long I went into that William Hill bookies, and I know that it wouldn't be for one bet. I'll be looking at coupons. I'll be looking at different things. It'd be 6, 7, 8 bets. So I don't know how long I was in there, but the fact that I left my 9-year-old daughter outside of William Hill bookies is for 15 minutes, whatever it was, is just absolutely crazy. And that's the zone you're in, the mind you're in. You know, you lose all track of reality and what's, you know, that serious neglect in our eyes. You're neglecting my daughter like that. So yeah, all the things that you do when you go on that journey are just things that you can't really comprehend when you look back and reflect.
Do you use the word, as you were talking then, of addict? And as a therapist, I have, I don't know if I've got an issue with that word addict, but when I explore that word, I generally find that the root cause for that was that whatever that quote unquote addiction was, it was to fill a void that hadn't been met in your life in some way, whether it be love, whether it be anything else. But I know you come from loving parents, etc.
Yeah. And that's interesting. As a therapist, you would have talked about, you know, some people go on an addiction journey, whether it's gambling or drugs or alcohol, whatever. And part of that journey might be because of their past life, their childhood, their trauma, all different things like that. And people have asked me, and therapists have asked me the same question. But my upbringing was amazing. The love for the family was absolutely incredible. I didn't want for anything. So I try and figure out why, I was one of those that happened to get hooked on the gambling and stay on it for 20 years. When others can have a bet, lose £10, not worry about it, and will never ever encounter gambling harm and never become a problem gambler or whatever. So it's a really strange thing. I don't know what you think about the biological side in terms of how we're wired up, and we're all wired up differently. It's a very strange thing.
I think that there is something in there about wanting the buzz, wanting that instant gratification, the thrill of the chase, etc. There's loads of aspects of that.
And that dopamine rush comes into play, yeah?
It's massive.
Yeah.
That instant gratification is massive.
Yeah.
And if you don't get it then, you want it, you'll have another go,
Yeah. The crazy thing about the whole gambling journey, when I look at it for 20, 25 years, although it ruined me, although I lost everything, the actual participation of it was I loved it. I loved being in a casino at 2 a.m, having a tuna sandwich and having a pint of beer. And
what's not to love about that? And that's the reality.
Yeah.
Gambling, the world of it, it's really seductive. And I've never been to Las Vegas.
It's a bit seductive, yeah.
I've never been to Las Vegas, but people who I know have been to Las Vegas tell me you don't know whether it's 6 a.m. in the morning or 6 a.m. in the evening, or if it's midnight or if it's afternoon. You don't know, because the way that the ambience and everything is set out, it's deceptive.
No,
so that you're just zoning in. Just like you were talking about the coupons with the different colours and everything. It's like, there's a science to that.
There is.
To draw you in.
And that has progressed from the casino days and the coupons. That's now progressed into the online world in terms of, because you said it, in terms of product design of these games, because we talk a lot about it in the industry, about product design and how it's designed for you to, keep gambling. We call them whistles and bells and all that kind of stuff. Near misses, all that stuff. Like you say, it's all designed for that. It's incredible.
I remember going to the Dam, Amsterdam, with my friends, and I've said to you that I don't gamble and all that. And I remember there was a little time in my early days when I was a bricklayer. I used to be on the slot machines, and I've done that, and I've lost my wages before. I've done that, being paid on the Friday, and I'm skimmed Friday night, and I've done that. But I remember specifically going to the Dam with my friends, and my mate is on this fruit machine, and he's just putting money in. And I looked at him, and it scared the bejesus out of me, because he didn't know what he was doing, but it was just, he was gripped by the lights.
Yeah.
He was just gripped by the lights, putting the guilders into the fruit machine. And that just made me think, nope, gambling's not for me.
Yeah.
Gambling's not for me.
And sometimes they say when you get to that mode of you're just feeding the machine or you're feeding the roulette table, whatever. Sometimes I've heard people say, I don't know if it applied to me or not, but I've heard people say that sometimes it gets to a point where it's not about the money. It's just about you participating, you doing what you enjoy doing, and you lose all sense of everything. And it's not necessarily about the money, but I've heard it said, but for me, obviously, it was all about financial gain. End of.
You wrote a book, Red Card.
Yeah.
I Bet You Can't Win. That's available on Amazon and AMP and all good bookstores. Yeah. Okay, plug. And there
we are.
There you go.
Yeah.
We'll get Tim to plug that for you as well.
Yeah, cheers.
But in the book, you talk about losing your partner, losing $500,000. Talk to me about that.
I mean, the partner, I met Sandra when I was 19, and she was the love of my life. She's my daughter's mum today. Daughter's 25, and the three of us are all very close, which is great. So they've stayed in support of me, which is amazing. I've got friends that don't talk to their dads or sisters or daughter brothers because the relationships are fractured and broken. So I'm very lucky in that sense. Sandra, 20 years with her, but as a gambler, the things that you do, we touched upon about the neglect before, my daughter, but the lies and deceit that you tell over a period of time, eventually they're going to catch up with you, and eventually, depending on what woman you're with, won't stand for those lies and deceit anymore, won't stand for the constant letdown. And I mean constant letdown. If I've said, oh, don't worry, I'll get Savannah this, that, the other for Christmas, I'll get Savannah this, that, the other for birthday. And then obviously the time comes and I blew my money. So, no Christmas present, no birthday present, I'm letting her down. I'm letting Sandra down. Yeah, there's only so many lies and deceits you can tell before someone gets sick of it. And that's how, so the trust was broken, basically. The trust was broken over a period of time. So our relationship fizzled out. And it's ironic because it fizzled out. And then when I wrote the first book, Red Card, in 2014, that's when I saw, there's a quote in that book where I say that Sandra I hold in high regard because, she went on that journey with me, but is still my best friend today. So that was tough. The financial side of things, if someone, when people do say, have you got any regrets and all that? And I think if we're all truthful, we might all have one regret in our lives.
Oh, I've got more than one.
Yeah. And for me, I would say that as much as, breaking up with Sandra, and losing X amount of money, but losing the two houses is probably a regret, because I think that, in those 25 years, late 30 years, who knows where I'll be with the two houses and property, and, people look after property, grows. But getting those two houses repossessed, that was, that hurt, to be fair. Yeah, that hurt.
Recently we've seen the likes of, in the recent past, Ivan Toney, Joey Barton, etc. It begs a question, and I think you've already mentioned that it's rife across soccer. People, football, everybody gambles, or most people gamble, etc. Is there an argument to say that, with the sponsors, with the gambling sponsors, they're there on the football shirts, etc. Is there an argument to say that gambling should be banned, or betting, as it were, should be banned, or football shouldn't have any association with it? Or can it be done, quote unquote, moderately?
Yeah. Good question. I think first question, in terms of gambling being banned, that's an absolute no for starters.
Why not?
Yeah. So I said at the start that when we talk about problem gambling today, approximately 500,000 of the UK, 67 million of the UK are problem gamblers. But the millions of people that enjoy a bet socially, and this is the important bit, because I've got loads of friends that do it. They might go to the races once a week. They might go to a casino on a night out once a month. They might go down the pub on a Saturday afternoon and spend a tenner each and put an accumulator on. And that is it. So that social element and the community element is what thousands of people do. They'll never encounter gambling or harm, and they enjoy it for what it is. It's been around for decades and decades and decades. It's global. It is a form of entertainment, whether we like it or not. It is. When you see people that go to the big meetings and all that, the Cheltenhams, the Ascot and all that, it's a fantastic day out for them people. They're not gambling addicts, they're not problem gamblers. It's just a great day and a good social event. So we can't exclude those people, from a certain type of enjoyment. So that's why gambling should never be banned. In terms of the correlation and the relationship between professional football and gambling, but not even just professional football, semi-professional football, which is what we're doing now, is huge. And we've spoken with the Gambling Commission and the regulator and the DCMS and football clubs about this massive partnership and relationship with professional football and gambling shirt sponsorship. So my belief is that back in the day, I think it was a glass company, it's Autoglass, and then someone else anyway, back in the day and all that. Yeah. Lots of clubs had different sponsors. So football clubs will always survive without a gambling sponsor. So I don't really get why, I think on average, we're talking about 4 or 5 million, up to 10 million is a sponsorship contract with a football club, which is basically, in today's world of professional football, is pennies. So football will survive, clubs will survive. They don't need to have gambling sponsorship. So my belief going forward, because we've just had a white paper consultation, and those decisions will be made in the next 6 months about gambling shirt sponsorship. One of them has been made already. Front of shirt sponsorship is now going to be banned from 2025. But the strange thing about that, they're banning front of shirt sponsorship with Premier League clubs.
But it'll be on the back and then on the sides, obviously. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So, and I think this relationship has grown so much that there's so much money involved that I can't see it really ending properly. And we talk to a lot of young people about, us being saturated with gambling advertising on TV and airwaves, social media, etc. And it's a strange thing. We talk to a lot of young people, especially young players, and when we get to the advertising, discussion, some of them do say, well, just because I see a gambler having popped my phone on TikTok or see it on TV, and it doesn't mean I'm going to go and gamble. And that's true for a lot of these young players, but it's just planting that seed and it's just giving that bit of encouragement. And that's where I think young people can fall into that trap, free bets, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of them do. So it puts that temptation right at their feet. So, and young people are risk takers. So I think it's very dangerous for young people. So
just on that then, because you did mention it before in terms of duty of care, are you starting to see football clubs take a more interactive responsibility, supporting the apprentices, supporting the new club, the young ones? Are you seeing more of that in evidence now, or?
I haven't seen more of it, and we've met with the PFA and the FA. So to cut a long story short, my relationship with Stoke City is obviously connected to Bet365, owned by the Coates family, who run Stoke City. And I asked them over the last 2 or 3 years if I could come in and do some work with the academies, do a bit of narrating around the pitch, share my story. Peter Coates signed me in 1990, he's still the chairman with his son today. Now, they didn't want to know. They didn't want to get involved in any kind of filming or anything like that, or Red Car come in and educate the scholars, which is really, really strange. And that was disappointing because they had an opportunity as a huge operator to show some social responsibility that they didn't want to know. So that's really disappointing. I know that we get emails from football clubs. We have one from Brentford the other week where they want us to come in and deliver a gambling awareness workshop to their academy. And we're saying, oh, hold on a minute. The FA told us that they've got that covered, that they're covering the Football League clubs. So we know there's clubs out there that are not, getting education awareness delivery for their young players, even though the FA say that they are doing some work with young footballers, gambling education. So I don't know what's happening fully with that. I don't know what clubs are getting it and what scholars and what young players and all the academies. I think it should be huge, because if you're 18, say for instance at Tottenham, because I worked at Tottenham's training ground for 2 years. If you're 18 at Tottenham and you get a professional contract, all of a sudden you're on $5,000 a week, and your friends are still the same. They'll still be on their apps and all that. They'll still be going to the bookers and casino, whatever. And you could so easily fall into that if you haven't had some kind of education awareness training. So I think for young players, it's absolutely huge. And that's, Yinka, that's just to touch upon something, Yinka, that's why I decided 6 months ago to take myself back to my non-league days and take myself back to that coach card scores. And I thought, well, how come no one ever talks about non-league football? Why is it ignored? So we done some research and we got a flood of letters from emails from chairmen and academy managers talking about their players, get to the ground at 1:30 talking about gambling, getting half-time talking about gambling, getting the bar afterwards talking about gambling, all on their apps, all 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and causing missing training, falling out with each other, financial harms. And we thought, wow, I had a feeling this was going on because this is what culture we're in. So we've got a 2-year agreement now to go into non-league football clubs across England. So for example, this week we're at Redditch and Ossett United. We've done Kettering, we've done Bedworth, we've got Bournemouth next week, we've got Chester City tomorrow. So we will be across the UK going into non-league footballs and educating their academies, because it was totally ignored, and they absolutely love it.
You know what? I'm glad. I'm not pouring scorn on the FA, but sometimes I get a feeling that they just pay lip service.
Yeah, exactly. And that's my belief, because the only time you hear anything about gambling addiction with the FA is when a player's suffer some serious gambling harm, he comes out into the media and talks about it, and then they'll say, yeah, we'll get him some help, that kind of stuff. So I would hope that there's a lot more going on with the 92 Football League clubs through the FA. That's what I would hope.
I think that, and there's a balance that needs to be struck as well, because when you speak about the scholars, etc., the academy players and that, is it an argument that sometimes it's too much too young?
In terms of education?
No, not in terms of education, in terms of remuneration for their skills and being able to...
Yeah. I mean, the landscape in terms of wages and salaries in professional football is just huge now. And that's why, young players now on the silly money at 18, 2, 3, 4 year contracts at 18, and they're on their $5,000 a week and all that. So it's a difficult one to say, because it's just the way the market is now. It's just the way football's moved on. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. And obviously you've got parents involved now, you've got agents involved now. So everybody knows what the going rate is. Everybody knows what their 18-year-old son with the first 3 year contract should be on. So yeah, it's just where we are, professional football. And that's why I say that there's so much money involved now. It's unbelievable.
This podcast has just flew today. But one of the things I haven't touched upon is your mental health. What was I don't like the word resilience. I shy away from that. But you talk about becoming a survivor and that. I think you're more than that. But was there a time whereby you thought, shit, I've reached rock bottom here?
I think when I went bankrupt in 2010, with the £192,000 bankruptcy file, 30 odd credits, I think that was probably the rock bottom. But it was a rock bottom, but there's something that happened in the same year, which, I know you said earlier that you're not religious, which is fine, and we have to respect everybody's beliefs and faiths and religion. But it became a part of my recovery. And I don't know if you know about that.
No, please.
So 2009/10, I was just breaking up with the missus. I was going through the bankruptcy, and I made bankrupt 192,000. So after that, I couldn't get credit. So it was a start of recovery in terms of not being able to get credit, in terms of clearing my debt and, easing my mental health in terms of bailiffs and all that kind of stuff, and letters and phone calls. So relax a bit. But then, 3 years later, when I went public on BBC Breakfast, that was a starting point where I started to realise I'm not alone. It's okay to talk about this. I've gone out into the public. I've got this massive weight off my shoulder. All my family and friends know now exactly what's happened. And that book, Red Card, came out. And that's when I felt, right, now what can I do? Now I can go on a recovery journey. So at the same time, I was working for Network Rail, and I had a visit from a chaplain on one Sunday afternoon, just out the blue. I was on a signal box, and he brought a brand new Bible with him, and we sat down and talked. My life was a bit of a mess at this time. This was 2010, same year as the bankruptcy, and I've still got the Bible now, and I've still got the salvation prayer that he wrote out for me that day. And I'm going to Wales on Sunday to do 150 congregation talk, and this is all part of it. So it wasn't a case that everything changed, but it was a case of that it gave me more hope. And then in 2017, I got baptized in Anfield Church, and my Christian faith grew stronger and stronger. So it's a personal thing with me that's helped me cope with my recovery. And, Yinka, I can't explain it, because if you would have said to me when I left that red sofa on BBC Breakfast in 2014, not knowing what's ahead, I don't know, I'm setting no company, I'm not a businessman, I've never set up anything. So if you would have said to me, you're gonna educate people around the world, you're gonna write 2 books, and you're gonna run an organization and become an author, I said, what you on about? But these things happen, and I pinch myself and I think, wow, yeah. And so that's where I believe that God has put me on a new journey. That's where I believe that, I've had to go through what I've been through to do what I'm doing today. And it's like I said, that's just my belief.
No, you know what? And I'm not pouring scorn or water on that, because I got a little frisson as you were telling me. that your journey, I understand your sense of purpose.
Yeah, that's the word, sense of purpose.
And it's come out of the lived experience.
Yeah.
Your lived experience. So there is that authenticity you can talk about. You know all the tricks in the book. You know when people are being straight with you or when they're not, and that's fundamental. As they say in Liverpool, you can't kid a kidder.
Yeah. Exactly right. It's made me a better human being as well, because it's made me be true to myself. Everything I talk about, whether it's with my daughter or whether it's around, like, it's everything is authentic and truthful. I'll share my story. I'll talk about what really happened, just in general conversation with people. I'm one of these people that I hate lies. I hate fake people. I like real people. And
yes.
I've grew as an individual and as a person, which again, I was a bit of a rogue back in the day and all that, I'd heard people, I mean, not treating the missus right and stuff like that, disrespectful to the missus, those kind of things, and even it's funny because my missus, not my missus now, but my ex-missus, Sandra, Savannah's mum, she said to me, 5 or 6 years ago, she goes, it's incredible how you've changed. She said, I'm really pleased and I know you're blessed. She goes, but can I have the new Tony now? You know what I mean? Because and I said, it's a shame, but it's great. But she's seen how I've turned into this, different human being that I was when I was with her. I wasn't so great when I was there, but she's my best friend, and we talk about stuff and everything. It's great, but yeah, I can't believe the stuff that's happened in the last 6-7 years. And as I said to you, I'll continue to, from a personal level, I'll continue to thank God for that and continue to work hard. Yeah, you have to put, he'll give you the tools and that, but I've still got to go out and work. I've still got to go out and meet.
The grafting. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You know what? It's funny because I am thinking about your ex, the mother of your daughter and all of that. And for her to stand by you.
Exactly.
That says a lot about her as well.
Yeah. And that's why I had to put that quote in the book that I hold in high regard and my best friend, because, she's been a lot of shit with me, a lot of let down. And now, 25 years on, we look after our daughter. Obviously, she's in London with Savannah and I'm in Coventry. Even to the point that, not this year, because I've got a new girlfriend, but the last 8 years, even though we weren't together, I was always at Sandra's house with Savannah on Christmas Day. And people used to say to my mates, you'd say, oh, so what are you doing Christmas? Go on, go to Sandra's. We invite you two together. No, we're not. But that's Sandra, you know what I mean? Just cook me dinner and everything and look after me for Christmas Day, even though we ain't together for 8 years. Yeah, she's an amazing woman.
That's boss.
Yeah.
That's boss. So tell me, how does Tony Kelly chill now? How do you get your fix, your rush, your whatever?
So I do put a lot into this business work-wise. So obviously Monday to Friday I'm here, and then football. I'll go to football sometimes, whether it's non-league to see my cousins play, or whether it's I was at the City on Saturday with City against Stoke, where friends got my tickets and I met a lot of old Stoke supporters. That was brilliant, and I'm lucky that one of the reasons why I came back to Coventry, I was in London for 34 years, I think, and I've only been back about 18 months. But one of the reasons why I've come back to Coventry, apart from moving the office to Coventry, was that because my family's here. So I've got loads of cousins here. My 3 brothers are here. One in Birmingham as well. It's 4. So that's one of the reasons. So I've always got somewhere to go. I've always got, yes, I've got my girlfriend now, but I've always got someone to go. 10 minutes in the car, I'm at my brother's house, or I'm at my twin's house, or I'm at my cousin's house. So they keep me on the straight and narrow. They're proud of what I do. They come to some of the workshops. It's just amazing place to be where I am today. And I tell you my biggest achievement about, because you mentioned where I am today, the biggest achievement, forgetting football or anything like that. In 2009-10, I had 200 grand debt, and I can't remember what the score was about 8 years ago in 2014-15, but the clear score thing was about 170 or something. And obviously I've had loads of CCJs, loads of defaults, obviously the bankruptcy, etc. Debt relief orders, debt management plans. The whole thing about the financial side of aspect of the gambling related harms has been massive for me. So I've been through the whole financial cycle. But the one thing that's I've achieved, which I've never achieved before, is that I'm debt free, and I've never been debt free since I was 19 years old. And I was with the missus and my brother looking for my clear score the other week. I think it was 870 or something, and it just had. And when I looked at it, it's got a bit underneath where it says 5 years, no missed payments. And I thought, I never thought that day would come where you'd see 5 years, no missed payments, no CCJs, no IBAs, no this. And I thought, wow, that's the best feeling. That's the best feeling, because I never thought in a million years that I would ever be able to get to that point of not being in debt like I've been all my life.
You know what? That's testament to other people as well, what you've been able to achieve. My take is, if one person can do it, then anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You've got to put the graft in. Yeah.
And that's what I think that's what my story is mainly about, is giving people hope. Is giving people hope that you really
100%.
can come out. You really can. I never thought it would happen to me, but you can come out with. Yes, you got to be strong and resilient. You got to work hard and graft, and you got to be determined. So when we talk about people addressing gambling, you've got to mean it. You've actually got to mean it from the heart. You've got to want to change.
Absolutely, and with every fibre of your being.
Yeah,
with every fibre.
Yeah.
So I dare say then it's easy for me to ask this question, that you trust yourself 100%. You trust yourself that you're never going to gamble again.
No. I think one of the things that made me trust myself more than anything is the fact that when I set up the company, it's a CIC company, that I'm the founder and CEO. So I didn't know how the business side of things works, but obviously, I have a debit card, what you're in charge of. And then I realized when we started to get funding, I started to, brought people on board, the directors and built a team. But then I realized, do you realize that, these people have got to trust you now, and funders have got to trust you.
100%.
So when we got our first 10,000 from the lottery, Awards for All. Yeah, the first one. That was huge for me, because then I, got all the materials and stuff we needed and all that stuff. And then as time's gone on, obviously there's staff members to pay for delivery of the workshop, the facilitating team. And then obviously we've got a bookkeeper so we can be transparent with all our transactions and everything. So that's when I thought, yeah, you have properly nailed it, because you've been running an organization with everything, every single penny transparent, and everybody trusts you. Funders trust me now. Everybody trusts everything about Red Card. And that is the biggest thing for me, that I've managed to, gain everyone's trust and prove to people, it can be done. It can be done.
I think for me, as you're saying, that the person you've got to trust the most is yourself.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because you can lie to as many people as you want, but you can't lie to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I went to Ascot, when was it? Last year, and all the times I've been gambling, I've never, ever been to Ascot, which is a bit weird. But anyway, yeah, the biggest occasion. So my brother's wife organised it every year. So last year, she said, do you want to come to Ascot and all that? Because obviously they know I'm in a good place. I said, yeah, that'd be amazing. And they said it's an amazing day. And this is when I'm going back to the social element. So we got on the coach and all that. And I said to them, I was with the missus of my brother and everything, said, right. So we'll have 50 quid. And it's weird going to such a big event, not worrying about, I have to win, or I've got to pay for this, I've got to pay for that. It wasn't about the spending the £50, £10 on each race. But the whole social element was absolutely amazing. Big, massive disco in the middle till 7 p.m, meeting lots of different people. And that social engagement was absolutely amazing. So the fact that I spent £50 on the 5 races, £10 a race, that it's irrelevant. It's literally irrelevant. Whereas when I take myself back to 20 years ago, where the dependency of gambling and the need to having to win is just horrible feeling.
It is. I mean, and going back to the gambling in of itself, like any type of misuse of something, it's about dressing a need
Yeah.
Even though it's just a temporary fix, it's just about addressing a need at that moment in time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the thing, when I used to wake up in the morning before and think about, the dependency of my gambling or the gambling addiction, whatever you want to call it, but the dependency, the need to have a bet every single day and night, the need to stay in the bookers all afternoon, the need to go to the casino at night, that I take myself, it's great because I can take myself back there as a completely different person and just think, wow, bet you never thought that, you'd be able to come away from that. But
how does that feel?
I've a laugh with friends about it because I tell them about how I used to finish training at 1:00 and then be in the bookers all day and then be in the casino all night till 2 a.m. And they just say to me, wow, they are, especially close friends to they are quite amazed and shocked about where I am today. They can't quite believe it, considering how I was, 15, 20 years ago. They can't quite believe that this is like a different person. You know what I mean?
It's funny because as you were talking then, what it felt like for me was that when you're in the midst of that, the gambling, again, I don't like the word, but let me use the word addiction and all that, like a form of trauma in of itself. And then once you get through it and on the other side, with trauma, once you've been able to purge it, it then frees up so much time for you to do the things that are more important in your life.
Yeah, definitely. The more constructive things, the more, time with friends and family, because one of the things that every gambler will do it on that journey is we always say that you'll lose money and lose this and that, but the biggest thing you lose is time. Because imagine the amount of hours that a gambler spent in a bookers or casino on a weekly basis throughout that life of 20 years.
Yeah.
It's just insane. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that is a big thing, having time to do stuff with other people and more constructive stuff. Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the things that helped me as well was the counselling. So we talk about not one size fits all. So my team, some have been to GA, some have been to Gordon Moody Association residential treatment, some have been for CBT. They've all recovered in their own way on a recovery journey. Some take 6 months, some take a year, whatever, but they've all recovered in their own way. And mine was family support, the Christian faith, and then some counselling. But the counselling wasn't just about the gambling. The counselling was about, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? That kind of thing. It was a bit more holistic as opposed to just about the gambling addiction. So I've never had the need to go and get CBT. I've never had the need to go to GA. And it's a strange thing. Some people
tell me why. And I'm not knocking CBT because CBT is one of a raft of talking therapies that we use. I'm a person-centered therapist anyway, and I did look on your website and look at the different types of therapy that are made available, but the relational one wasn't on there as such. The humanistic
relational one.
Yeah, the humanistic one.
Right,
And maybe we can talk about that separately, It'd be good to talk about that. Because I always, for me, in terms of therapy, it's always about, I'm not going to tell you what's wrong with you, but I want to know what happened. There's a difference there, whereas too often people can be directive and say, this is wrong with you, that's wrong, that's happened and all that, maladaptive. But for me, my approach is always about understanding how have you arrived at this position. What's happened for you. But that's, we can have a separate conversation on that one.
Yeah because I had a great family network of support. If I didn't have that, maybe if I didn't regain my faith or whatever, I don't know if I would have went to specifically gambling treatment, GA, whatever it was. I don't know if that would happen and all that. But as I said before, I think once I shared my story in 2013 at Brew Breakfast, that I suppose it's some kind of therapy, getting it off my chest, acknowledging it, accepting it, going public. That was big for me. That's massive for me.
Cathartic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like it's cleansing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think that was massive. A huge start in the recovery, without doubt.
Okay. Tony Kelly, you've been brilliant. Got a couple more questions for you before we finish. One I always ask every person: who's the most important person in your life? I think I know what you're going to say, but let me hear it anyway.
Yeah, that's a hard one, because there's
is it really? No,
but it is me, and I shouldn't say that, but it's me.
No, it's only you.
There you go, then. Yeah, because
Why did you think that was hard?
Yeah, because sometimes, obviously, I have loved ones, but I have to, especially where I've been and the journey, I have to focus and look after me, number one. So I am the most important person. Me, I look after me.
Okay, question. Do you embrace that fully 100% that the most important person in your life is you? Do you embrace it 100%? I'm pushing you now.
Probably 90%.
90%. Where's the other 10% going to?
I'd say the 10% is probably, family members, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did it feel, me asking you that question?
How did it feel? I felt like I should be, maybe say my mum or maybe say my daughter, which a lot of people would say. A lot of people would say something like that, or their partner, whatever. But I think the reason why I said myself is because I know my journey. I know the future, what my future to look like, and I know how important focusing on me is. You know what I mean? So that's why I see it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'll give you the accolade of letting you know you're the first guest who's said that and put themselves first. Yeah, in all the podcasts we've done, you're the first person who's ever said it. So props to you on that one.
Yeah,
okay.
Thanks, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about, I've got one Stoke player in mind, but the question I'm going to ask you is, best player you ever played with?
Best player I played with?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd have to, because I played with lots of different. I'd have to say, definitely. I'd have to say Mark Steen for me.
Okay, okay. When was that?
So he was at Stoke 1990 to 92.
Okay.
And then he got a £1 million transfer from Stoke to Chelsea, and he became the first player in the Premier League to score 9 consecutive games.
Was he the first one on that?
Yeah, because Vardy done it afterwards at Leicester.
That was afterwards.
Yeah, but he was the first one. 9 consecutive Premier League games. Yeah, when he went to Chelsea.
The hardest player, the most difficult player you played against?
Oh, I know that is straight away. So when Borley signed me, Alan Ball, God bless him, I was signed as a winger. But then throughout the career, I've played up front and as a winger. And we were playing for Stoke against West Ham in the League Cup, 92, I think. And obviously I was playing right wing. And that is the hardest game I've had in my life. Yeah. And his name, he is a bit of a West Ham legend, Julian Dix.
Julian Dix, lad. He came to Liverpool as well.
Oh, yeah. Did he go to
Liverpool? He did. He signed, he played for Liverpool. I always
forgot that.
That was a weird one in coming to Liverpool, but he actually did. Yeah.
But he was hard as nails.
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah, and he kicked me all over. Yeah. I mean, I'll never forget that.
Okay. I was going to say, before your time as well, but present company apart, the best player that ever played for Stoke City, in your opinion?
Ever played for Stoke?
Ever played, yeah. Maybe I'm thinking back in those halcyon days.
I know one player that was is really revered at Stoke, and I remember it. It's Alan Hudson.
That's the person I was thinking of.
Seriously?
Sit, Wallah. That was the person I was thinking of. The man was class.
Class actor. We used to see him after games in the Sir Stanley Matthews suite and have a good chat with him and all that. Yeah, amazing. Legend at Stoke, man. Alan Hudson.
That's nice. That's nice to know.
Yeah. And obviously the legend of all legends is the forenamed Sir Stanley Matthews.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. I know.
just got me thinking about when I'm digressing slightly, but when we beat Forest 5-0.
Yeah. Oh, I remember that game. That's one of the best games I've ever seen Liverpool. Well, that's the Barnes and thing in Beers.
Yeah. I think it was it Jimmy Anfield said it was the greatest game of football he ever saw. You know, I remember. It was awesome, awesome.
And in terms of the best, so the two players that I've seen, well, one I've played with for 2 years. Mark Steen scored, 60-odd goals for Stoke before he went to Chelsea. Unbelievable finisher. But in terms of an opposing player that I've seen live and been on the same pictures, is that famous game that we talked about tonight, Liverpool and Stoke, and that is Ian Rush.
He was a beast, wasn't he? He was a monster.
Both those goals in just a flash, just 10 minutes. Ian Rush was just, but to see him do it live, because obviously I was on the bench that night until it came on and wrecked your night. Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to let you have that. I'm going to let you and Tim have that. You know, I think Tim enjoyed the introduction as well.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? Yeah. But when I watched him live, and obviously other players that were on the pitch then, Steve McMahon, Mark Walters, some class players on that field that night. Yeah.
You know what? Football, it unites us.
Yeah.
It unites us. And it doesn't matter who plays it or at what level, it's a joy to behold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tony Kelly, I want to thank you today. You've been generous to a fault with your time, your openness, your honesty, your frankness. And, Tim and I have thoroughly enjoyed this edition of The Hurt Locker.
Well, Yinka, thank you very much for having me, because this is the kind of thing that I enjoy doing. I want to help people, support people, raise awareness. I love sharing my story, and a great platform to be on. So I can only say thank you to you and Tim for inviting me.
No, it's honestly, like I say, I never prep. I don't prep. I just want to let's see how it goes and that, so I don't do any research or anything. And what you get off me is what you get off me. Okay.
Yeah.
Being with you is effortless. I can't thank you enough. Okay.
Cheers, mate.
The Hurt Locker is a safe space for our guests to openly share their mental health experiences. If you have been affected by any of the content in this recording, then please reach out for support. If it is an emergency, dial 999. If you would like to talk to somebody today, then please call the Samaritans on 116 123. Stay safe.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Hurt Locker. Please give us a rating or share with another listener. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Hurt Locker Pod.